Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt. I am a retired hospice physician and an author and educator. I also have another podcast titled End of Life University, where I do interviews with people who work in all aspects of end of life care. I've been inspired to start this podcast, What Really Matters, as a solo podcast with briefer episodes where I talk about the spiritual lessons that I have learned through the work I've done with the dying. And one of the reasons I feel motivated to do the podcast right now is that we're at a place in our world where we really need some wisdom. We really need to learn resilience, and we need to learn how to navigate and survive difficult times. And in my experience, it was my dying patients who were facing terminal illness, who knew their time was limited here on earth, who actually transcended so many of the pain, of the worries and the pain and the suffering of life itself, to still find joy and love in their last days. And I was so inspired by observing this over and over again with these patients at their bedside that it changed how I live and how I practice my life. And that's one reason I wanted this podcast to be set apart somewhat from all the other interviews I do and the conversations I have around death itself, so that we could really focus in on this spiritual transformation that is available to us when we incorporate death into our awareness, when we focus on the fact that life is short and brief and we have to make the most of it while it's here. So in these episodes, I talk about what I have learned really matters in life through the lens of those who are dying and looking at the end of life. And today, I'm going to focus in on kindness, and I've talked about kindness before in other episodes. I feel like it's really important to bring it up right now because we're going through some difficult times, a lot of challenges in our world, and I know I hear every day from people who tell me they're just feeling despair, or they're feeling sadness or fear. And there's so much happening all around us. It's really overwhelming. We're in a world at war. We live in a polarized society where there's a lot of anger and hatred being spewed about in the news, in social media, sometimes visible to us in our communities. We feel uncertain about the future. We don't really know where things are headed. We don't really know what tomorrow will bring. And we honestly don't know what this path is that we're on right now. It's disorienting, destabilizing. And most of us are feeling this. We feel unsettled in our own lives. We don't know who to trust. There's constant economic and financial stress for most of us in our day-to-day lives. The things we have taken for granted in the past now no longer feel certain to us. We're all on edge, and in many ways, our individual nervous systems, and you could say our collective nervous system as well, is overtaxed, stressed out, and constantly scanning for danger. So we're all hypervigilant in a way, on alert, watching and waiting for what might happen next. And that is a very stressful way to live from day to day. No wonder we're all exhausted. In my own case, as might be true for you, I've had to limit my exposure on a daily basis just to the news, to social media, to the stories that are out there that create even more fear or distress or worry for me in my own mind. I'm having to guard what I take in just to protect myself a little bit from the overwhelm that is present in this onslaught of information. But there is something that has been helping me every single day to navigate these times to find more joy in my day-to-day life. And that is the pursuit of kindness. And again, as I said, I've talked about it before, but I feel like kindness in some ways, it is the medicine we need right now. It's the antidote to the fear and the division that we sense all around us. And as I get into this topic, I want to just read one line from a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye titled Kindness. It's an amazing, wonderful poem, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes for this episode so that you can go online and read the entire poem. It's beautiful, and you should definitely do that. Don't miss it. This is the kind of poem you'll want to print out and keep it on your bulletin board or your desk so that you can read it every day and remind yourself about kindness. But Naomi Shihab Nye writes this: before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. And it is this line from her poem that makes me think we are at this place now where we finally can know kindness as the deepest thing inside, because we have been getting to know sorrow deep within ourselves for months now, for a few years now. We have been absorbed in the sorrow of the world, every one of us. It's really hard now to escape it. We've lost our coping mechanisms that helped us ignore the sorrow. We are immersed in it now as individuals and as a collective. And now we are finally ready to truly know kindness, to truly embody and integrate kindness as the deepest thing inside of us, as the deepest motivator of our actions. So that's why I'm bringing it up today, and I want to dive into it a little bit and hope that you will join me in taking up a kindness practice. And first, I wanted to tell you a little story from my own past that has to do with kindness. A little illustration of a lesson about kindness. And this happened quite a few years ago. I was driving home from work on a city street. It was a 4-lane street, not a highway or anything. And I was following behind a rickety old pickup truck that was rusted out, very old, shaking, driving along, just following along on the road. And suddenly the tailgate of that pickup truck fell open, and it turned out the bed of the pickup truck was full of apples that had just been picked. They were in various baskets and bags and boxes in the bed of the truck. And when the tailgate fell open, everything tipped over. All the bags tipped over and began to fall out of the truck. The boxes fell out, the baskets fell out, and there were apples rolling everywhere along the street. The driver of the truck pulled over immediately and got out of the car, and he was a very old gentleman who was immediately distressed and distraught that all of his apples, which he had obviously just picked at an orchard down that road just outside of town, he was probably on his way to sell those apples at a farmer's market or a farm stand somewhere. And he was completely distressed now. His apples were rolling all around the street. Cars were having to divert around the apples and the boxes. Well, instinctively, without even thinking about it, I just pulled over and parked behind his truck and got out of my car, and I started helping him pick up the apples. So I was gathering as many apples in my hands as I could, and stuffing them back into bags and boxes, lifting them back into the back of his truck, running around the street, chasing after rolling apples and picking them up. At some point I thought, this is somewhat absurd, that we're running around here trying to pick up these apples that are scattering everywhere. But I looked up to see a young man crossing the street toward us, and he looked a bit threatening to me. He was wearing all black leather with metal studs on his clothing. He had a mohawk haircut and multiple piercings and tattoos, and he had a look on his face that seemed angry to me, and I felt a little bit scared, like, wait, why is he coming over here? What's he going to do? What will happen? But suddenly he bent down and started picking up apples. He was helping out. He joined in. Now there were three of us picking up these apples off the street, chasing them down, putting them back in bags and boxes, trying to restore order. And a few moments later, I looked up again, and there was a man in a business suit carrying a briefcase who had stopped also to help pick up apples. Now, here we were, four complete strangers. One, the driver of the car, who didn't seem to speak English, wasn't able to converse with us, but the other three of us who had just randomly gathered out of the blue, who happened to be there at the right time, all of us gathering up these apples, putting them in bags, storing them back in the truck for this old man. He was teary-eyed. He was so grateful. He kept saying gracias, gracias to us, and as if he just couldn't believe how fortunate he was. This bad thing happened. He was losing all of his apples that he was going to sell, and yet there were strangers who somehow showed up and were helping him pick them up again. At the end, once we got all the apples picked up, he gave each one of us a small bag of apples to express his gratitude. And we each went on our way. He got back in his truck. And it was just a tiny moment, a moment of kindness that happened spontaneously because something went wrong. The tailgate fell down, the apple spilled. And so it was a moment of responding to what was wrong and trying to do something to help. And yet it became somewhat contagious because I started to help, and two other people were attracted to come and help. And who knows what other ripples there were of people driving by who saw this scenario and could see what was happening, could see the spilled apples, and that other people were trying to help out to pick them up. And so that was a moment of kindness where it felt very gratifying to me, for one, to help the old man, but also to see that other people were also called in to help when there was a moment of need. As I said, this happened a number of years ago, but since that time, I've come across some research by a psychologist named Jonathan Haidt. He's an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Virginia, and he has been doing research on kindness. And I wanted to read you some of the conclusions from his research because it's very powerful. And as I read his studies, I thought back to that day and the apples and picking up the apples and what was really going on there. So in Jonathan Haidt's work, he wrote that witnessing kindness creates a specific emotion that he calls moral elevation. He said that when people see goodness in action, like compassion, courage, generosity, or just showing kindness to another, the reaction people feel includes a warm feeling in the chest. They feel moved or inspired. Some people get teary-eyed or experience chills, but they also experience a desire to become a better person and feel motivated to help others. And so just witnessing someone else being kind actually causes those witnesses to want to be better people themselves and causes them to feel motivated to help others. And the second conclusion he drew is that kindness is contagious. People who have witnessed altruistic acts are more likely to help someone else, to donate to charity, to volunteer, to cooperate more generously in their day-to-day lives with other people, and to feel more connected to other people. And so kindness, it doesn't just ripple outward, it actually recruits new participants in the kindness. It causes more and more people to feel motivated to become kind themselves. It is so transformative and powerful that it isn't just a momentary thought of, oh, that's nice. It actually literally transforms people and helps them consistently want to do something to be kind themselves. It's really remarkable to read this research. Next, Haidt wrote that witnessing kindness increases empathy across differences. So people become more compassionate even toward people who are outside of their usual social group. And they found that witnessing kindness can reduce prejudice toward other groups. That is amazing. Kindness temporarily dissolves the polarity between us. Kindness is actually what the world needs right now when our polarities are at a maximum. And again, Haidt wrote that people experiencing this moral elevation, he calls it, after witnessing kindness, report again that they want to improve themselves. They feel inspired to become better people. They want to help others, and they want to live according to deeper values. So this is not just a passing thought. It's not just an idea in their heads. Oh, it would be nice to do something. It actually produces new behaviors. And this comes even from telling stories about kindness, people witnessing a kindness, or hearing a story like the story I just told you about the apples. Stories alone are enough to result in this moral elevation and to inspire people to want to do a better job, to want to reach out across the boundaries that usually separate us, to do something kind for someone else. That is remarkable when you think of the power of a very simple act, like bending down to pick up a few apples for someone who has dropped them on the ground. Simple. It didn't take very long. It didn't require any special skills, but it made a difference and it made an impact. And it's largely an unseen impact, as I said before. Who even knows the ripple effect of all the people driving by or walking by who saw strangers coming together to pick up apples that were rolling on the street? Who knows what that might have led to? And then one last point from Jonathan Haidt's research: exposure to moral beauty or kindness strengthens moral identity. His research suggests that regularly noticing goodness helps people see themselves as caring and compassionate. So they begin to change their own self-image, the way they look at themselves and who they believe that they are. They begin to see themselves as becoming a caring, kind, compassionate individual. And when that self-identity changes, that changes all of their behavior for the future. Again, it's not just a momentary response. It lasts, it continues on. The person's identity actually changes. So, as you can see from this research, simply being kind to other people and making that kindness visible is a way that we can have an impact on the world around us, on other people in the world. We may not be able to see the impact with our own eyes, but we can trust that it's happening and that it's there. And again, kindness with for ourselves, when we carry it out, it's actually self-propagating as well, because the gratification from doing something kind for another person is so strong that it makes you want to do something else kind. It makes you look for the next kind thing you could do for another person. All we have to do is get started. We have to find one opportunity to be kind, and we can begin to create this whole cycle for ourselves and for the people around us and for our society. And again, because this is a time when sorrow is so very deep, we need to be filling up the space the sorrow has carved out with kindness. It's the perfect opportunity when we could make a difference and have an impact on everyone around us. And I'll tell you one more short little story. This took place just a couple of weeks ago. A friend of mine was uh, hosting a food drive. She wanted to gather up a truckload of food to donate to a local pantry that needed to restock its shelves. So she reached out and asked people around her to donate food. And I decided, yes, I'm definitely going to do that. That's a cause I really care about. People need to eat, and grocery prices are going up. I want to make sure people have access to food. So I took the list of food that the pantry had put out that they were in need of to the grocery store, and I bought everything on the list. I bought everything that was needed. I filled up an entire grocery cart with all the items that I found that had been requested, and they were all non-perishable. But the grocery cart was full, and I got to the checkout stand, and the cashier was looking at this huge cart full of groceries that I was unpacking onto the conveyor belt and said, "What have you got going on? What is this? What's all this for?" And I said, "Oh, it's a donation for the food pantry." And he was moved, visibly moved. He actually got tears in his eyes. He paused for just a moment. He put his hand over his heart and he said, "Oh, that is so nice." And I said, "Well, I want to make sure that families can have food on the table who need it, who may be struggling right now." And again, he hesitated for a moment. He paused and just looked at the things I was buying, and I could see that it touched him. I saw the impact, he smiled, and I saw it in his face. I saw the moral elevation that Jonathan Haidt was writing about, and he turned to a young man had come up to start help bagging, and he turned to him and said, "This food is all for the food pantry. It's a donation for the food pantry for people who are hungry." And the bagger who was putting the groceries in the bag, the same thing happened. I saw his face changed. I saw his body grow softer. I saw his intention changed, and he was putting the food very, very carefully and thoughtfully into bags as if he was helping to do something that was precious. And it's as if in this moment I saw those two workers changing their attitude about this interaction we were having and what it was they were doing in their work. Well, at the same time, there was a woman standing behind me in line who had been watching me unload the cart full of all these items. And I looked back at her, and she was smiling, and she had tears in her eyes. And she kind of whispered to me, "That's very nice." And then I saw her turn to the person standing behind her in line, and she said, "That's all for the food pantry." And that person smiled and said, "Oh." And suddenly I saw it happening with my own eyes. Each one of those people, this ripple effect, to see that someone was just being generous, donating food. But the effect it had on each one of them, I saw what Haidt described as moral elevation. I saw it in that moment. I don't know what that might have led to. I don't know what the ripples caused in terms of change or transformation. I don't know if those people went out and made a donation or did something kind or held a door open for someone or simply smiled at someone else or said hello, or I don't know what it might have changed. I don't really know what it could have set in motion. But in that moment in the grocery store, I saw the impact of one simple act of kindness. It was an easy act for me. I have the money. I could afford to buy that cartload of groceries to donate. That was easy for me. But making it visible and letting someone else know that this is a gesture of kindness on my part sent the ripples in motion. And so I'm not asking for some kind of credit or glory for myself because I donated groceries. I'm just saying there are simple acts that we can do. Not everyone can buy groceries. I'm not saying that's the thing to do. I'm saying each one of us can find a way in our own lives that we can do something kind for someone else and create this ripple effect that will begin to spread kindness throughout our society, one or two people at a time. If we get inspired to do this and start thinking about kindness and focusing on it, I think in some ways it will lift each of us up vibrationally. When you're in a state of thinking about kindness instead of thinking about how scary the world is right now, you're vibrating at a higher level. You have more energy and it ripples out powerfully to people around you. This is the time when acts of kindness could make the greatest difference and could bring about tremendous change all around us. If we commit to it, that every day I will find a way to be kind. It doesn't have to be kindness that costs you money or anything, or even an amount of time. It can be just the simplest act of kindness. And I've mentioned this before in other episodes of the podcast, but one thing that I've started doing, each morning I go for a walk anyway as part of my exercise, and I have started calling it my kindness walk. And as I'm walking on my kindness walk, I try to be kind. I try to just generate kindness. I smile at people. I say good morning. I wave. I comment like, oh, I love your dog's sweater. Oh, that's great to see you. I like your t-shirt, or whatever. I try to radiate kindness toward other people. Always it has been well received. I've never had anyone recoil or seem angry. Everyone brightens, everyone smiles, everyone face lights up when you make the simplest, slightest gesture of kindness. At least that's been my experience. And the other part of my kindness walk is that I notice other people being kind around me, because that's how, in a way, I feed my own well of kindness, is just noticing there's so much more kindness around me than I've even been aware of in the past. But when you start to focus on it, you wire your brain, your reticular activating system, to notice kindness. And suddenly you'll see there's a lot more kindness happening around us than you may have been aware before. Like out of the corner of my eye, I see, oh, there's a man with a grocery bag, and he's picking up little bits of trash out on the beach. Oh, there's a father who's going for a run with his baby in the stroller so that his wife can get a moment of rest. And there's a woman, she's helping a person on an adaptive bicycle that got stuck in the sand. She's helping him get his bike out of the sand so that he can continue on the bike path. Those tiny little acts are everywhere, except most of the time we miss them. We're off in our heads, we're ruminating, thinking about other things, and not looking for the goodness and the kindness that's there. And for me, it changes everything, because that's how I begin my day, with this walk. And to have my whole morning changed by kindness, by noticing kindness, is an incredible start to the day. It sets the tone for how I experience the rest of the day. So I want to challenge you and encourage you. Again, this isn't something new. I've talked about it in the podcast before, but I'm bringing it here again with this research from Jonathan Haidt to give it even more power. I'm challenging you to do something kind Every day, make it your practice, your habit. Every day, find a way to be kind. Look for the existence of kindness around you. Create stories for yourself and in your mind, and remember those stories and tell the stories to other people about the kindness that you see in the world. This is how we will actually have an impact and make a change in our world. Yes, the sorrow is still going to be there. We are carrying that with us heavily day after day. And yet the kindness, it's the medicine, it's the bandage, it's the antidote that we need for the hatred and anger and sorrow in the world. So please, please remember it. And one more time, I'll read Naomi Shihab Nye's a quote again from her poem Kindness. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. And again, we are there. We are all carrying that deep sorrow. And now we are ready to know and truly learn and generate kindness. It's the perfect time in our society. So as I say goodbye here again, practice kindness in any way you can. I can't recommend the kindness walk too much. It's fantastic, simple, easy way, something you can do every day when you're out for a little walk or out buying groceries or whatever you might do. Practice a kindness walk or show kindness in any other way you can. And the other thing I invite you to do is to send me your stories, because I want to start collecting kindness stories. And I make a promise to you that I will start maybe on a monthly basis sharing the stories of kindness that you tell me. If you send me your story and give me permission to use it, I will share it here. I'll do kindness summaries every month or so, and I'll share the stories that you send to me so that we can all come together and we can all keep hearing each other's stories and get reinforced and remember the power of kindness. So you can either leave a comment with your story in it, or you can email me info@eoluniversity.com and send me the story there. But if you do, please write kindness story in the subject line. Somehow use the word kindness so I won't miss it, so I can pick it out right away as a kindness story. I hope you'll do that, because I would love to share your stories. I'd love to collect them and share them with other people, and we're going to create a network of kindness together. So thank you for joining me here today, and thank you for listening to my thoughts. Once again, some I've shared before and I'm repeating them here, but I hope that you are inspired in some way to focus on kindness every day, and come back for each episode in the future, and we'll keep talking about it. Also, just remember that we're here for love. We are here for this kind of kindness. We're here to learn about it. We're here to generate it, to reflect it, to show it to the world. But we are also here for the grief and the sorrow that the world brings us as well. We hold them both at the same time. So we have to be ready for whatever life is going to send our way next. We have to face our fear, and we have to just remember to love each and every moment that we have a chance to be here together on this planet. I'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.